Picture this. A man walks onto the bloodiest battlefield of World War II carrying nothing but a Bible and his faith. No weapon. No way to defend himself. And then he saves 75 lives in a single night. Sounds too incredible to be true, right? Well, that's exactly what Hollywood thought, too. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into Hacksaw Ridge, Mel Gibson's 2016 war epic starring Andrew Garfield, to separate fact from fiction. And I promise you, some of the real story is even more unbelievable than what made it onto screen. But first, let me tell you something that will blow your mind by the end of this video. The real Desmond Doss turned down every single Hollywood offer to tell his story for over 60 years. His reason? None of them would agree to his one simple requirement. We'll reveal what that requirement was and whether Gibson's film finally met it. Before we get into the comparisons, let's establish who we're talking about. Desmond Thomas Doss was born in 1919 in Lynchburg, Virginia, into a family of Seventh-day Adventists. This Christian denomination strictly follows the fourth commandment about keeping the Sabbath holy and the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill. Now, when Pearl Harbor was attacked in December 1941, most young American men felt the call to take up arms. But Doss faced a moral dilemma. He wanted to serve his country, but his religious beliefs forbade him from carrying a weapon. So he enlisted as a combat medic, becoming what he preferred to call a conscientious cooperator rather than a conscientious objector. This decision would make him one of the most unlikely heroes in American military history. Let's start with what Hacksaw Ridge nailed. The film's portrayal of the brutal harassment Doss faced during basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, is historically accurate. His fellow soldiers really did call him Holy Jesus and Holy Joe. They threw boots at him while he prayed. One soldier even threatened to shoot him in combat, saying, "I swear to God, Doss, you go into combat, I'm going to shoot you." The movie correctly shows that his commanding officers tried multiple times to have him discharged on grounds of mental instability. Captain Jack Glover, portrayed by Sam Worthington, really did try to get Doss transferred out of his battalion. And yes, there really was a Section 8 hearing where officers attempted to discharge him for mental unfitness based solely on his religious beliefs. The film also accurately depicts Doss's refusal to work on Saturdays, his Sabbath day. This wasn't just about getting out of work. It was a core religious principle that he maintained throughout his military service, even when threatened with court-martial. But here's where it gets interesting. The movie's depiction of the Battle of Okinawa, while dramatic, captures the essential truth of what happened. The Maida Escarpment, nicknamed Hacksaw Ridge, really was a 350-foot cliff fortified with Japanese machine gun nests, booby traps, and tunnels. The Japanese had indeed been there for years, honeycombing the mountain with defensive positions. And yes, when most of his battalion retreated under heavy fire, Doss really did stay behind to rescue the wounded. Over the course of 12 hours, he single-handedly lowered approximately 75 men down the cliff face, praying with each rescue, "Lord, please help me get one more." Now let's talk about where the movie took creative liberties. And trust me, some of these changes were made for surprising reasons. Number 1. The family drama that shapes young Desmond's pacifist beliefs. The movie shows a violent confrontation between Doss's alcoholic father and his mother, with young Desmond wrestling a gun away from his father. This scene is meant to explain his lifelong aversion to firearms. In reality, the fight was between Doss's father and his uncle, not his parents. His mother called the police, and young Desmond hid the gun. The real incident was apparently too complicated for the film's narrative structure. Number 2. The romance with Dorothy Schutte, played by Teresa Palmer. The movie shows Desmond meeting Dorothy when he donates blood at a hospital where she works as a nurse. It's a sweet meet-cute that drives much of the first act's emotional stakes. But here's the truth. Desmond and Dorothy actually met at their Seventh-day Adventist church in Lynchburg. She wasn't even a nurse when they met. She only got her nursing degree after the war to help support their family when Desmond's war injuries left him largely disabled. They also married in August 1942 before all the military drama. Not after, as the movie suggests. Number 3, the character of Smitty, played by Luke Bracey. Smitty serves as Doss's primary antagonist during basic training, leading much of the harassment and eventually coming to respect him. But here's the thing. Smitty never existed. He's a composite character created by screenwriters Robert Schenken and Andrew Knight to represent the various soldiers who tormented Doss. Sometimes Hollywood needs a face for faceless cruelty. Number 4. The dramatic courtroom scene where Doss nearly faces court-martial. The movie shows his father dramatically delivering a letter from his old commanding officer that stops the proceedings. While Doss did face multiple threats of court-martial, there was never actually a formal court proceeding. His father did intervene, but by contacting the chairman of the church's War Service Commission in Washington, not a former military contact. But here's what might surprise you most. Some of the most incredible parts of Desmond's story didn't make it into the movie at all. The film focuses entirely on the Battle of Okinawa, but Doss had already proven his heroism in 2 previous battles. He served with distinction in the Battle of Guam and the Battle of Leyte in the Philippines, earning Bronze Star medals for extraordinary bravery in both conflicts. By the time he reached Okinawa, he was already a decorated combat veteran. The movie also compresses his heroic actions at Hacksaw Ridge into what appears to be a single night. In reality, his Medal of Honor citation covers his actions over 3 weeks, from April 29th to May 21st, 1945. Think about that. 3 weeks of repeatedly risking his life to save others. But here's the most unbelievable part that Gibson actually left out of the movie. After Doss was wounded by grenade shrapnel, the movie shows him getting hit by a grenade blast. He waited 5 hours for a stretcher. When one finally arrived, he saw another soldier who was wounded worse than him. So Desmond rolled off the stretcher and gave it to the other man. While treating that soldier and waiting for another stretcher, a Japanese sniper shot Doss in the left arm, shattering the bone. So what did Desmond Doss do? He made a splint out of a rifle stock and crawled 300 yards to safety under enemy fire. 300 yards. That's longer than 2.5 football fields. Mel Gibson later admitted he left this out because he didn't think audiences would believe it. Even Hollywood thought the truth was too incredible for the movies. Military historian John McManus, who specializes in World War II combat, rated the Battle of Okinawa sequence in Hacksaw Ridge as an 8 out of 10 for historical accuracy. He praised several specific details: the way soldiers climbed the rope nets, grasping them vertically rather than horizontally to avoid having their hands stepped on; the use of the American .30 caliber machine gun with a 2-man team; the tactics of flanking Japanese pillboxes. However, McManus noted that the movie exaggerated certain elements for dramatic effect. The height of Hacksaw Ridge was increased. It wasn't quite the towering cliff face shown in the film. There was also too much flame and too many explosions, and the soldiers wouldn't have stood around watching the naval bombardment as shown in the movie. But these are minor criticisms of what McManus called an intensely realistic battle sequence that captured the chaos and brutality of Pacific theater combat. What the movie does capture powerfully is the lasting impact of war on both Desmond and his family. The film ends with his Medal of Honor ceremony, but the real story continued long after the cameras stopped rolling. Desmond returned home with 17 pieces of shrapnel embedded in his body and a shattered left arm. He had contracted tuberculosis in the Philippines, which eventually cost him a lung and 5 ribs. The military treated him with high doses of antibiotics, which by 1976 had left him completely deaf. He lived in total silence for 12.5 years until receiving a cochlear implant in 1988. His disabilities left him 90% disabled and unable to work full-time. He spent 5.5 years in and out of VA hospitals. The family survived on his modest military pension and the income Dorothy earned working as a nurse, the profession the movie mistakenly gave her from the beginning. Desmond Doss Jr., their only child, perhaps said it best: "The war is never over." And it was the same thing with my dad. It went on and on and on, and even after he's dead, it's still going on now with this movie. Remember at the beginning when I mentioned that Desmond Doss turned down every Hollywood offer for over 60 years because of one simple requirement? That requirement was accuracy. He would only agree to have his story told if it was told truthfully. Doss died in 2006, 10 years before Hacksaw Ridge was released, so he never saw the final film. But his son, Desmond Jr., had this to say about Gibson's movie: "I find it remarkable, the level of accuracy in adhering to the principle of the story in this movie." Producer Bill Mechanic acknowledged they weren't completely accurate on every detail, particularly around family relationships and chronology, but he argued, "If you're a slave to the complete facts, then you're not making a movie that is compelling." The question is, did they honor Desmond's requirement for accuracy? According to the visual blog Information is Beautiful, the film was 52.7% accurate when compared to real-life events. They noted that most of the main war-related events did take place, though not all in the time frame shown, and much of the pre-war material was either invented or distorted. But perhaps accuracy isn't just about getting every fact right. Maybe it's about capturing the essence of who someone was and what they stood for. Desmond Doss believed so strongly in the sanctity of life that he would rather die than take a life. He proved that courage isn't about being willing to kill for your country. Sometimes the greatest courage is being willing to die for it without compromising your deepest beliefs. In an age of cynicism about heroism and skepticism about faith, Desmond's story reminds us that extraordinary moral courage can come from the most unexpected places. A soft-spoken Seventh-day Adventist from Virginia, who weighed barely 140 pounds, became one of the most decorated soldiers of World War II without ever firing a shot. The movie may have taken liberties with timelines and relationships, but it captured something essential: the power of unwavering principle in the face of overwhelming pressure to compromise. Whether it's fellow soldiers threatening to kill you, officers trying to discharge you, or enemy fire raining down around you, Desmond never wavered from his conviction that all life is sacred. And here's that mind-blowing fact I promised you at the beginning. During the battle at Hacksaw Ridge, while Desmond was lowering wounded soldiers down the cliff face, a Japanese soldier had him directly in his rifle sights. The enemy soldier later reported that every time he tried to fire, his gun jammed. Every single time. Desmond Doss called it a miracle. Skeptics might call it mechanical failure or battlefield confusion. But consider this: in 12 hours of moving through heavy machine gun and mortar fire, carrying wounded men across open ground, lowering them down a cliff face one by one, Desmond emerged without a scratch from enemy fire. The only injuries he sustained were from helping others: grenade shrapnel when he shielded other soldiers, and a sniper's bullet when he gave up his stretcher to treat another wounded man. Whether you call it divine intervention, incredible luck, or simply the universe protecting someone too pure for this world, one thing is undeniable: Desmond Doss proved that the greatest weapon a soldier can carry is an unshakable moral compass. Hacksaw Ridge may not be 100% historically accurate, but it succeeds in honoring the spirit of an extraordinary man who proved that heroism comes in many forms. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is refuse to become something you're not, even when everyone around you says you should. Desmond Doss saved 75 lives in a single night, became the first conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor, and showed the world that you don't need to carry a weapon to be a warrior. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the real story behind one of Hollywood's most powerful war films, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We specialize in separating fact from fiction in your favorite movies, uncovering the incredible true stories that inspired them, and revealing the fascinating details that didn't make it to the big screen. Trust me, the truth is often more incredible than anything Hollywood could imagine. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.